All right, I am so excited to have here with me Catherine Gray. She is the producer of the award-winning documentary film Show Her the Money and author of the book by the same name. She's a venture capitalist and general partner of the Silicon Valley Women Founders Fund. She's a founder of SheAngels Investors and co-founder of the SheAngels Foundation. She's also a TEDx speaker and the host of a very popular podcast called Invest in Her. So Catherine is not just a businesswoman, she is the businesswoman, and she knows how to make money, and she is a storyteller and a filmmaker. And so she's also had one of the most successful releases on Kinema, and I've got to see it firsthand. So this is why she is so extremely qualified to talk to us today about how to successfully, independently distribute a film. So welcome, Catherine. Thanks for being here.
Wow. Thank you for that introduction. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean it. It's been incredible. It's fun because we sometimes think about, in talking to filmmakers, being when you're releasing your film, you're like the CEO of your film. Your job is to really put together the plan, execute it, figure out marketing, and all of that. But before we go too deep, let's talk about the very beginning and let's talk about your goal. So when you first decided to make Show Her the Money, what was your goal? What did you want to see happen with the film's release and once audiences saw it?
Christy, thanks for having me. And, our vision for the film was that it would be, I always say it's a movie and a movement. So we coined it a movement.
I love it.
And so our movement from day one was, how were we going to use this film to educate people in an entertaining, engaging way about venture capital, which sounds kind of dry, but everybody has come to see the film and said, oh my God, this was so much more entertaining than I ever thought it would be. And that venture capital is way more fascinating than they thought it was, more accessible, something that they want to get involved in. And it's been a great experience getting the film out to over 100 cities in this past year. And that was after we did a festival run. So we first did a festival run in order to get, hopefully awards, which we did. So we won Best Documentary at probably about 10 festivals. And then from there, with those accolades, we did a theatrical release so that we could qualify for the Oscars. And we did make it on the consideration list.
Nice.
Had a billboard over on Hollywood Boulevard and got a lot of buzz around that. So that was awesome. And then our next step was to do the 100-city tour around the world. And that really perpetuated our mission to make this into a movement. And every single city we went to, it was pure magic in the room. Like you were there.
Yes.
The energy in the room was palpable because people wanted to understand what was venture capital and why were women only getting 2% of it. And how can we change it? So basically, it appealed to women that were starting their own funds that we feature in the film, which I call the unsung heroes that nobody knows about. They're out there raising millions of dollars to invest in women. Successful businesswomen and women who've inherited money that want to be investors in venture capital and their incredible stories. And then, of course, the women innovators in the film who are the entrepreneurs who have the struggles and the triumphs that so many people in the audience relate to. So basically our audiences were filled with either 50% entrepreneurs who really loved the movie because they felt seen and heard about the journey and how hard it is. And then the other 50% are typically women that invest or that want to be investors in venture capital and love the fact that they now understand how accessible it is and how they can become an investor in that to make an impact that really does affect the planet.
No, you're entirely right. The women you follow are starting businesses or running businesses that can have a massive impact just within each of those companies. And the unsung heroes is interesting too, because it's true. It is hard to start a business. It's hard to get it off the ground. It's really hard to raise money. And so then there's women going out there raising money for their funds or managing funds on behalf of other individuals, and then they're investing that money. You don't hear their stories that often. And so I remember reading something where you discussed fund managers. I'm like, oh, no one talks about fund managers. So I think it's incredible what you did. And there was a line you would say that I loved which was about equality. What it does is effectively show audiences that money is power and women need it in order to achieve true equality. And so I think it's also very on point that the film is about making money. You sought, I believe is one of your goals, to make money through this film and to show that you can. But more importantly was, let's reach audiences, let's educate and give access to what it looks like to invest and how to be invested in. So I guess, if you had to pick one, let's pick one goal, would you say your number one goal was to find audience, number one goal to make money, or number one goal to make an impact and maybe get more women to invest?
Well, I have to admit, I can't pick one because it was all three.
You did achieve all three.
And I always say it's so funny that, I tell people that it was funny that I was out there raising money for a movie that was about how hard it is to raise money, right? There's a dichotomy, right? So yeah, I wanted to get numbers. We're on a quest this year to reach 1 million viewers. That's our goal. I always say shoot for the stars and maybe you'll land on the moon. We do want to make money with it. We have investors. So we have tried to monetize not just the film, but offshoots of the film. Like we have the Show Her the Money book coming out, which is about the women and the men of the movie and the movement. So that means the women that were in the film and the cast, and then also the producers that were the investors in the film. I realized they each had such an incredible story that it would make a great book. So there's a chapter about each of them, and they're unbelievable stories. Like, there's Sarah Dusek who, sold her company for $100 million and tells her story. And,
Wow.
There's Dawn LaFrida, who's the largest franchise owner of restaurants in the country. So they're all really extraordinary and enjoyable to read about.
They're again accessible, relatable stories, because I think sometimes when people hear venture capital or investing, you're going to think big tech, or I think Silicon Valley only. But restaurant franchises, jewelry businesses, like they're not small businesses, but they might not be what first comes to people's mind. So it's very accessible. I want to go back to the rollout a little bit, because you mentioned you wanted to do festivals for the Laurels, theatrical. Tell me a bit about that. When you were making that plan, did you sit down first and say, okay, for the next 2 years, I want to hit each one of these stages? Or was it a little bit more, let's see how we do at festivals, roll out from there, see how we do theatrically? How would you describe your strategy and planning for this?
I had a consultant that speaks at a lot of the big festivals like TIFF and Sundance. His name's Peter Broderick. I will say I went back to him several times to make sure I was rolling this out right in this new arena of what's right to roll out an independent film, which is totally different than it was even just a couple of years ago. So yes, I was very methodical about, from his advice and from other people who had done it, to roll it out not so quickly. He's like, it doesn't have to happen overnight. It's better to stretch it out. So, sometimes people want to do everything all at once, but better that we did the festivals, then we did the 100 city tour with a corporate sponsor. And then now we're, after the live events, now we're rolling this year into virtual, which, by the way, we're kicking off Women's History Month with people being able to see it March 1st through the 6th. I think the ticket link will be with this video. And
Yep.
the reason we're doing that is so many people have said, gee, I missed it in my city, or it wasn't in my city, and I want to know how to see it. But we wanted to still keep it a grassroots campaign. And that's what I love about Kinema, is that we control when people see it, and we can still allow just like groups of people to see it together. So then we can still have online talk back, which they get with the ticket for March 1st through the 6th. On the 6th, we have a panel with the producers and cast of the movie so people can engage in conversation about it and ask questions. And that's really what I love about doing it this way this year with the virtual. People always ask, oh, is it going to be on Amazon, Apple, whatever? Yes. But first, we want to make sure that it's a movement that literally helps move the needle and get more women funded in venture capital. It will be so important to the future of so many lives, building wealth, and in what products and services you see in the future. Venture capital is essential to what the future is going to look like. And don't women want a say-so in that? I always say, we impact 80% of the buying decisions, but we want to impact more of the investment decisions. And, knowledge is power. And that's what our movie does. It educates people in a easy to understand way what venture is and why they would want to put part of their portfolio in that investment to not only build wealth, but to make tremendous impact.
It's true that the things that go simultaneously. It's not philanthropy. There are some like philanthropic benefits in terms of job providing
Yes.
or supporting an industry, creating innovation. But it is at the end of the day, venture capital is intended to make money. We did a video on this recently, trying to explain windowing, and your campaign does it perfectly. You're essentially maximizing not just the revenue opportunity, but like the FOMO opportunity. So the people who are going to go buy a ticket and go out, they're also going to be your biggest advocates. I ended up going to many of your screenings, partially out of interest and because my community here in New York kept promoting it and booking screenings. And I'd go to these events and you have a room full of, as you said, investors and founders deeply engrossed, and they're promoting it on social. They're taking photos there. They're also generating that content and word of mouth for you. And then you're taking those emails and that experience all the way through. And so I've seen you have great branding. You're consistent with your branding and you have great socials. We didn't really talk about this too much, but can you talk about like the marketing around that? Do you run an email list? Do you run your socials? What does the marketing look like for around the distribution you're doing?
Well, when we did our screenings, we did do surveys, and that helped build our marketing list because those people want to be a part of our community. They want to be part of our movement. And then also, most of the people that sign up on Kinema, you have that list built out from that as well. I also had my own list from SheAngels Investors, my other company. So between all that, we have a significant list. And then, of course, I have a large following on LinkedIn. So we utilize social as well as, of course, Instagram and Facebook. For our particular market, I think LinkedIn is best. Yeah, I think for us, it takes a village. So you can't market it all on your own. You do have to garner other groups that believe in what you're doing. And that's the great thing about women and women's groups. We really all try to help each other. So if you look at our launch of our virtual one of Show Her the Money, March 1st, we have probably 24 women's groups that are out there helping us promote it. And their logos are on our social. So we're promoting them and they're promoting us. It's a win-win. Like we are stronger together, helping each other out.
Yes, I completely agree. And you have had a few great partnerships. I think LinkedIn did a screening online. I believe you had some brand sponsors in Fidelity or Wells Fargo. And then again, this list of organizations, both for-profit and nonprofit. Could you tell us how you went about building those partnerships? When did you reach out? Did you come to them with an idea or did you guys form the idea together?
So there's a couple of different scenarios there. So some of the corporations I've gone to and said, hey, let's partner on this. And they got behind us. The others in the local markets, it was really the women's groups who wanted to bring in the screening who usually found the sponsor. So that was a win-win.
Oh, nice. And you came up with the idea of the 50-city tour. Did that come from, was that a goal you set that you wanted to work towards? Or where did the 50-city come from?
Honestly, I just thought, well, that sounds like a significant number. Let's do a 50-city tour. I had no idea how it was going to happen, but I knew we were putting everything in place to hopefully make it happen. And what happened was when we did our 2 theater runs in New York and LA, we got so many people booking it after that. And then every time we would book a city, we would get more people wanting to book it, either in that city to come back or in another city. And so it just organically grew into over 100 cities. Nobody was more surprised than me. And it continues. So we've done over 150 screenings. And this year, I think we already have about 50 on the calendar. Some of those are in person and some of them are virtual. But we still have a great movement underway.
You do. And I remember I use your film as an example often. And the 50-city tour is one of my favorite things. Sometimes just make it up, make a goal. You're like, I want this film to be seen everywhere. I want it to be seen in major cities where there are investors and women founders, not that they're only in major cities. And you just set a goal. and you did it. It's a business manifesting, if you want to get a
And
little woo
it's
woo.
funny you say that about the major cities because we were in every city. We were in Fargo, North Dakota. We were in Milwaukee. The Midwest was a great market for us too. Minneapolis, a lot of places, Louisville,
Yeah,
Nashville, of course. But it wasn't just the coastal cities or the big cities. It was a lot of others too. So,
you are
um,
correct.
and then also we were in Europe and Australia, New Zealand, uh, all over the world. We had
Right.
requests from all over the world and still do.
And when you were again kind of doing this windowing and rollout, you have a finite amount of time. You have other full time jobs. So how did you? From what I saw, it looked like you were focusing on the most immediate target groups and those who could pay or had the time to organize. And so, can you tell us a bit about that? Did you start with nonprofits or did you start with more venture funds and corporations and companies for screenings?
I kind of knew it would be across the board. So, with Kinema, you can put that sliding scale. So, nonprofits were 1,000 to license it, corporations were 5,000. And, or that we gave the option that they could just sell tickets and split the percentage with us. So, no matter what the situation, there was something for everyone.
Yeah, nope, you're entirely right. If you could, I want to take a step back from the strategy. So, is there anything that I'm missing here that we didn't talk about in terms of like the actual strategy from conceiving it to rolling it out?
A lot of people ask me about the fundraising part of it. And I will say fundraising is all about building relationships. That's very important. And to do it ahead of time before you need to fundraise. And then there's two different ways I fundraise. So one was allowing people to put money into the film and get equity in the film. And the other was to work with From the Heart Productions that gave me a fiscal sponsorship for people that wanted to donate money and get a tax write-off. And I think it's important to combine those two when you can.
Ah, smart. And then in that equity or in either way they invested, was that purely for production or did that also go for marketing and distribution?
For everything.
Everything. And did you approach that as, all right, here's one goal amount, we're going to raise this at the beginning, or did you raise in chunks as you went?
Yeah, I raised in chunks. I got enough to put the film together, and I'm like, hey, here we need to do the Academy Awards promotion, and we need to do, whatever was next in front of us. So everything from the book to the PR and marketing, and yeah. So
Right.
I rolled it in chunks, but started when we had enough to make the movie, and then added on from there.
And you like a smart investor, you were diversifying your streams, and so you have the book for sale. Did you guys have merch? I know you had a
We
sweatshirt.
do
Did you
have
sell merch?
merch. I'd say that wasn't one of our stronger things, but we do have merch on our site. I would like it to be stronger. And maybe that'll grow over time as the movement grows. And then also, I'm working on a couple of other offshoots, like a docuseries spinoff and an educational series. So I think you can do more with the film than just the film itself. That's why we did the book and these other things to help raise money to get the investors' monies back.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And you mentioned kind of towards as the advice you got from strategists, which we completely agree with too. TVOD will always be there for you. The app, you can always work with an aggregator. You can get up on those platforms at some point. You want to focus on the community building and the FOMO and the brand building along the way. But you don't want to do it forever. So how are you looking at the next, few months to a year? Is it in your plan, or do you know yet when you think you'll kind of move on to your next project or have the film rest on Apple or Amazon and move on?
The coach I was telling you about, Peter, said that this film probably has a 3 to 5 year life. And for us, it's pretty strong because it's a movement that's not going away. And it's something, especially with what's going on in the world, people really care about how they can change this underfunding issue of women entrepreneurs. And so I say you can vote with your money. So we have a long road ahead of us with our film. Our film is such a great tool to educate people about venture and great for the funds. In fact, we launched a fund from the film itself. It's called this, like you mentioned, the Silicon Valley Women Founders Fund that I started with one of the other investors in the film. And that's a $100 million fund to help women in tech with their technologies to get them invested in and acquired. And so it's a very exciting offshoot of the film, one that I'm super excited about. And that is something as a result of the film. Another thing as a result of the film is all the venture funds in our film have all raised millions of dollars as a result of the film. So the film is making an impact, and I think it will make an impact for a long time. So I don't know when we'll do that switch over, but I really feel it's important to keep people engaged, and to watch a one-off on Amazon, I don't think people will actually take action. I also think it's more profitable to use a platform like Kinema. So that's why I recommend it to the filmmakers who ask me what I'm doing.
Oh, thanks. I mean, that's our intention. We try and have a smart, lean business strategy that leans into technology to keep the margins better for filmmakers. And it's so funny. Producer Ron, I think he's still here. I met through Rachel Sklar, who used to run a group called Women in Tech when I first moved to New York. And that community was so active. I know they've helped so many women founders, startups, and investors. And so I would love to share the information about the Silicon Women Founders Fund with that group too. It's a great, it's a great network in New York. You had great screenings here.
Yeah, well, you're a great networker, and I feel like Kinema's been a good support to us. You've come to our screenings, and yeah, it's always good to be in business with collaborators. And of course, I wanted to do business with a female-owned company, so that was a plus.
Well, thank you. Well, we also, we listen to the filmmakers. You have given us lots of tips on improving. Not podcast information, but we finally added that log in through Google, log in through Facebook. We're launching the Pay with Apple Pay. A lot of the tips that you were like, this could be faster and easier, they're getting implemented. They'll be live by the time this podcast is live.
Great.
So thank you for all the consistent feedback that you've given. So I guess if there's anything you've done so well on the campaign, it's incredible. It's why we're talking, because I'm so impressed with everything you've done. Is there anything you would do differently if you could change it?
The only thing I would do differently, I guess, is, if we could have gotten even more sponsors, like these corporations could benefit from getting behind tools like this to raise awareness about how people could be involved in helping create equity, gender equity in this space. And it makes a good investment. Women are a good investment. They tend to, have higher returns and quicker exits, and they're just, it makes sense for people, men and women, to invest in women entrepreneurs. So it would just be to have more corporate support, I think. And I want more family foundations and family offices, pension funds to realize that it's important to get behind movements like this, like our educational program that will teach younger people about venture capital, or our docuseries, which is an entertaining way for people to learn about venture capital, because it is so important to the future. And so, and because it's fun and exciting. That's what I always like to hit home, is that this is a fascinating arena. You get to see all the interesting ideas and inventions that are coming down the pike. So I'm a little passionate about this, and I'm so glad that our film has been recognized also by U.S. World and News Report as one of the best financial films of the decade. So that was a really cool thing to wake up to one morning. And, I think it's because, we partnered with Kinema. So many people have seen the film, and you guys make it. Also, another thing I think is super important about Kinema, and I want to give you kudos for this, is that you keep people from pirating the independent films. So, when they go through you, they get it for their screening. That's it. They can't steal it. And I think you've solved a big problem in this arena. So many people used to get their films stolen, and I think this is a great solution to that. So monetizing it, safety, helping get the word out, being a good collaborator, all good reasons for filmmakers to use your platform.
Oh my gosh, you're amazing. Thank you. Those are like our core values. And it did start with security, because we want to build trust. So what's next? Where else can we know people can find Show Her the Money on Kinema? Where can people find you online and on LinkedIn?
Yeah, sure. So our website, of course, is showherthemoneymovie.com. We'd love for you to see the film on Kinema, especially as we kick off Women's History Month, March 1st through the 6th. You can see it. Your ticket allows you to watch it anytime in that window. And then on the 6th, you can meet everybody who helped make the film. I will say we have some really dynamic people that you're going to want to meet. We have Emmy Award-winning actress Sharon Gless of Cagney and Lacey, who's one of our executive producers. She also just recorded our audio book, which is coming out soon also, called Show Her the Money. And then the other people that I mentioned, Dawn LaFrida and Pocket Sun, who's a rock star in the venture capital world and youngest woman to ever start a venture fund, and so many others that you'll get to meet that are from the film. I was going to say, of course, I'm on LinkedIn, Catherine L. Gray, and that's with an A.
We will, yes, Catherine Gray with an A. We will share all those links. But it's your March 1st, March 1st through 6th, correct? Is the
March 1st through the 6th, and you have the link for them to buy a ticket or share with their friends. And of course, we're on Instagram and Facebook and all of that. They can also find the Silicon Valley Women Founders Fund on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, look forward to hearing from everybody.
Yeah. And also, if you are a female founder, filmmaker, founder, investor, like come to this event on March 1st through 6th. You'll get a unique stream of the film. We'll send you a link to watch through Kinema, but then join the conversation afterwards, the talk back with the rock stars that Catherine all just mentioned. There'll be a great Zoom room. I've great community members in the female entrepreneurship space, but not just women. We want men to come to the table too. So we'll make sure to get that link out, and we're excited for that event. As Rod said, we could talk forever. Is there anything else you want to cover or you think filmmakers need to know?
I would just say, build a great team around you and have fun with it. Don't make it a drag. It should be fun. It shouldn't be this horrible experience of, trying to do everything on your own. Build a great team around you. It does take a village.
Yes, I completely agree. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, Catherine. This is amazing. You were so concise. You clearly are a professional podcaster. I really appreciate your time and sharing this with everybody.
My pleasure. Thanks, Christy.
Thanks.
And that's our episode. Thank you to our special guest, our producer and editor, Ron Pissarro, and you, the filmmakers, creators, marketers, and distributors that are dedicated to connecting audiences with great films.